Chapter 961. The sustained assault from the abyssal creatures suddenly abated, and everyone heaved a sigh of relief. However, the devastating power that the grey-haired woman had just displayed had also sent chills running down everyone's spines. Silver light flashed, and the blood god appeared before Tang Wuyue. Much to his surprise, the voice that rang out from beneath the blood god's visor belonged to a woman. The voice was cold and crisp, and listening to her evoked the imagery of eating cold watermelon during winter. Come with me. She grabbed onto Tang Wuline's pauldron in a direct manner, and her body swayed before she flew out of the cave. Long Yakshu and Jiang Wuyue looked on as the two of them departed, and they could only exchange a speechless glance with one another. They had never witnessed any abyssal creatures as powerful as that grey-haired woman. The melee combat and long-range attack units were reorganized, and they were prepared to take on the abyssal tide as soon as it resumed. Meanwhile, Tang Wuline was led out of the abyssal cave by the blood god, and both of them flew directly toward the legion base. After exiting the cave, the blood god instructed, "Follow me." She then released Tang Wuline before flying on ahead. Tang Wuline hurriedly adjusted his body in midair and took a deep breath before following along behind her. The blood god's body flashed, and she soon landed in a nondescript courtyard behind the control center. From the outside, this place appeared to be no different from the base. As soon as she landed on the ground, her suit of battle armor vanished into her body as streaks of silver light. Tang Wuline landed behind her and also withdrew his own dragon moon battle armor. He was standing behind the blood god, so he could only see her profile from behind. She wore a pristine white military uniform, and her epaulets indicated that she was a major general. She had a head of short silver hair, a straight back, and a slender waist. The memory of tumbling through the air with her resurfaced in his mind. At the time, he'd been struck by the notion that her waist felt very slender, but he didn't think that she'd really be a woman. This female blood god's figure was truly quite astounding. Her waist was extremely slender, but her backside was the most voluptuous among all of the beauties that Tang Wuline had ever seen. There was a slightly exaggerated curve leading from her waist down to her backside, and her legs were slightly thick, but very long, and they were extremely alluring even when sheathed in the pants of her military uniform. Come with me. The blood goddess turned around to glance at Tang Wuline, and he gleaned her appearance for the very first time. Her icy blue eyes created a rather strange combination with her silver hair, and her hair was slightly different from Yuna's silver hair. Yuna's hair were like crystalline strands, yet her locks appeared to be slightly whiter in color and also seemed to be extremely soft and smooth. She wasn't particularly beautiful, at the very least. There was a clear gap between her and Yuna in the looks department, but she was brimming with a heroic spirit. This was a trait that all soldiers seemed to possess. Tang Wuline had seen it in Long Yakshu, and he was witnessing it again in this blood goddess. Tang Wuline followed the blood goddess into the room, and the elevated indoor temperature immediately struck one with a sense of relaxation. The interior of the barrack was very narrow, and there was an elevator directly up ahead. A beam of light shone toward them, and the blood goddess's blood god bracelet also lit up. The two lights met, and at the same time, she swept her hand through the air. A burst of light was then released from her blood god bracelet, which was clearly different from Tang Wuline's bracelet, and the light immediately encompassed his entire body. Only then did she make her way toward the elevators. The doors of the elevator opened, and Tang Wuline also hurriedly entered it. There were no buttons in the elevator, and as soon as the doors were closed, it began to move. Tang Wuline could sense that it seemed to be moving in a downward direction. Around a quarter of a minute later, the elevator doors were opened again, and the battle goddess, who appeared to be in her 30s, led him into a circular hall. There were 3 rows of screens within the hall, all of which were depicting the situation within each of the abyssal caves. Welcome to the blood god battalion. You can refer to me as Blood 8 as I'm ranked 8th among the 9 blood gods. Our ranks are decided based on power, not by age. The battle goddess said in a cold voice. Greetings, superior. Only now did Tang Wuline get a chance to extend a military salute toward her, and at the same time, he said in a respectful voice, "Thank you for saving my life." Blood 8 waved a dismissive hand before pressing down on the blood god bracelet on her wrist. The surrounding screens split open to reveal a series of doors, and 4 of the doors were opened, following which a person emerged from each of them. "What's going on, Lil 8?" A lazy voice sounded. The voice belonged to a young man who appeared to be around 26 to 27 years of age. He had his arms behind his back and wore a lazy expression on his face. His epaulets also indicated that he was a very high-ranking military official. Blood 8's expression immediately darkened. "Don't make me say this again. Blood 7. Don't call me Little 8. Refer to me as Blood 8. Blood 7 chuckled. "All right, don't get mad. We're all friends here, so why be so dogmatic? Humph." Blood 8 harumphed coldly. The other 3 people also emerged, and one of them was a woman who appeared to be around 50 years of age. She wore a resigned expression as she sighed. "You should really learn to watch your mouth, Blood 7. What are you going to do if Blood 8 outstrips you someday?" Blood 7 chuckled. "That's my motivation for cultivating. If that day really comes, you have to stand on my side, Sister 3. Blood 3 shook her head in a resigned manner before turning her attention to Tang Wuline. "Looks like you've brought someone new here, Blood 8. Do you think he has what it takes?" Blood 8 nodded in response. "His situation is rather special. The best way to explain things would be through showing you some footage." This was all recorded from the battle taking place in the 6th cave. She made her way over to one of the screens as she spoke before beginning to operate it. Tang Wuline extended a military salute toward everyone. "Greetings, superiors." Blood 3 smiled and said, "You can be more relaxed here. Our blood god battalion doesn't have as many rules and regulations as there are in the rest of the base. Allow me to introduce everyone to you. I'm Blood 3, these are Blood 5, Blood 6, and Blood 7, and you've met Blood 8 already. Our blood god battalion only has 9 members in total, and we welcome you to join us." Blood 5 and Blood 6 were both men. Blood 5 was very tall and burly with dark skin, making him resemble an immovable black iron tower. In contrast, Blood 6 was quite short and thin, and he had the most ordinary appearance among all of the blood god present. He seemed to be completely harmless, and his presence was virtually non-existent. He wore a friendly smile on his face, but Tang Wuline noticed that he had a pair of extremely long and slender hands that were quite thin, but struck him with an indescribable sense of danger. From this, he could deduce that this man had to be extremely fast, which made it very likely that he was an agility system soulmaster. Tang Wuline hadn't heard much about the blood god battalion, and Long Yakshu hadn't told him anything about it either, so this was clearly a highly confidential organization within the blood god legion. However, it was also undoubtedly the case that this was the core of the blood god legion. Blood 7 made his way over to Tang Wuline with a faint smile on his face. "Where are you from, little bro? How long have you been in the legion?" Tang Wuline replied, "I've only been part of the legion for a short time, and I was recommended here by the Tang sect." "You're from the Tang sect?" Blood 7's expression changed slightly as he cast his gaze toward Blood 6, and said, "Looks like you two have something in common." Blood 6 smiled, and said, "Welcome. Who recommended you to come here from the Tang sect?" Tang Wuling replied, "It was His Highness, the Amorous Dulo." A rather peculiar look appeared on Blood 6's face at the mention of the Amorous Dulo. Right at this moment, Blood 8's voice rang out, "Come over and have a look, everyone." Everyone's attention was immediately drawn to the screen before her, and the scenes being depicted on the screen were none other than that of the battle that Tang Wuline had just participated in. At this point in the footage, Tang Wuline was standing beside Jiang Wuyue, and the battle hadn't commenced yet. Blood 8 pointed at his figure on the screen to inform everyone that the man in the suit of gold and battle armor was him. The battle then began to unfold on the screen, and in the beginning, everyone's expressions were still quite natural. Chapter 962. Soon, Blood 7's smile had completely faded. Blood 5 was still as expressionless as a statue, but a surprised look had appeared in Blood 6's eyes. Meanwhile, Blood 3 wore a contemplative expression on her face. "Your combat prowess is far superior to anyone I know of that's at your age. What are those golden rings?" Blood 7 asked as he turned toward Tang Wuline. Tang Wuline gave a rather ambiguous response. "Those are a part of my bloodline power. I only revealed my soul rings near the end." A faint smile appeared on Blood 6's face. "Interesting. You managed to severely wound a Black Empress and drew direct attacks from 2 Abyssal Emperors. That last one was the Enchantress Empress, right? She has to pay a considerably heavy price to emerge from the Abyssal plane. It's a good thing that she was severely debilitated by the seal and her projection only possesses less than a third of her power. Otherwise..." That was less than a third of her power. Tang Wuling immediately drew a sharp breath. That projection had almost killed him in an instant, yet it only possessed less than a third of the power of the Enchantress Empress. Just how fearsome would her full power be? Was the Enchantress Empress supposed to be the ruler of the demonic enchantresses? Tang Wuling immediately thought back to the demonic enchantress that he'd encountered in the simulated abyss. Blood 8 turned to Blood 6 and Blood 7 as she said, I'm sure you know that's not what I'm trying to show you. Blood 3 nodded, and said, I see why he's piqued your interest. It's considered to be taboo to ask about the abilities of other soul masters, but this is an extremely important matter, so I have to ask you this. How were you able to draw the abyssal energy into your sphere? And where does that energy go after that? Tang Wuling was silent for a moment upon hearing this. He'd always known that the special properties of his golden dragon sphere would be identified by someone sooner or later. He had also already thought of a response to this exact question, and he wasn't afraid of anyone discovering the ability of his golden dragon sphere as it could only be used by him. So he wasn't concerned that it would be taken away. My golden dragon sphere has a special ability that allows it to devour the life force energy of all life forms. I only discovered after coming here that it can also devour abyssal energy. The energy devoured by the sphere is filtered before being injected into my body, thereby replenishing my powers so I can battle for prolonged periods of time. Tang Wuling was telling the truth, but he refrained from revealing the fact that the energy that was absorbed could also make him more powerful. After all, he was completely unfamiliar with everything here, and he didn't know if these people could be trusted. As such, it would not be in his best interest to tell them everything. Of course, this had been taught to him by the old demons on the demonic island. Can I have a look at it? Blood 7 asked in an eager manner. Tang Wuling nodded and swiped his right hand over his forehead. Golden light flashed, and the golden dragon spear appeared in grasp. He then offered the golden dragon spear to everyone with both hands. Blood 7 laid a hand onto his golden dragon spear first, yet in the instant that his hand came into contact with the spear, his expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly withdrew his hand as if he'd been electrocuted. As soon as he touched the spear, a powerful sense of oppression had welled up within his bloodline. That was quite a terrible feeling, and it had made him slightly disoriented. Blood 3 wasn't as rash as he was. She merely appraised the weapon with a surprised look on her face, and asked, Is this a weapon that's connected to your bloodline? Did you forge this weapon yourself? Tang Wuling shook his head in response. I don't know where it came from. It seemed to have always been in my body, and it naturally appeared after my soul power reached a certain rank. Blood 5 spoke for the very first time. Is it a conjoined weapon? Tang Wuling didn't know what a conjoined weapon was, but it seemed to be quite a fitting term to describe his golden dragon spear. Blood 5 raised his hand and grabbed onto the golden dragon spear. His body immediately shuddered as well, but he didn't withdraw his hand like Blood 7 did. Even so, he still raised an eyebrow as a contemplative look appeared on his face. Moments later, he released the golden dragon spear and shook his head. There's no way to do it. Blood 3 nodded and sighed. Indeed, there's no way to replicate this weapon. However, the fact that 2 abyssal emperors attacked him in succession indicates that they see him as a major threat, so we have to protect him carefully from now on. By the way, we still don't know your name. My name is Tang Wuling, superior. Tang Wuling replied as he withdrew his golden dragon spear. Blood 6 asked, Have you always been cultivating in the Tang sect? Tang Wuling shook his head and replied, I graduated from Shrek Academy. Indeed, after attaining his suit of 2-word battle armor, he had officially graduated from Shrek Academy. Unfortunately, the academy no longer existed. Blood 5's body shuddered, and he repeated in a grim voice, Shrek Academy? Yes. A complex look flashed through Blood 5's eyes, and he reflexively clenched his fists. A grim expression had also appeared on Blood 3's face, and she asked, When did you leave the academy? A hint of sorrow flashed through Tang Wuling's eyes as he replied, Not long ago, right after that major disaster. What the hell happened? Blood 5 stepped forward and suddenly grabbed onto Tang Wuling's collar as a violent aura erupted from his body. There seemed to be violent streams of energy erupting within the entire circular hall. Blood 5. Blood 3 yelled in a stern voice. Only then did Blood 5's aura recede a little, and he released Tang Wuling, but he still asked in a furious voice, Tell me what happened to the academy. How could the academy? Tang Wuling had naturally already guessed at this point that this Blood 5 shared an extremely close bond with the academy, and a wry smile appeared on his face as he said, Everything happened far too abruptly at the time. It was a terrorist attack that had been brewing for countless years. Thus, Tang Wuling gave everyone a recount of everything that he'd seen and heard. Everyone's expressions darkened as they listened to his story, and in particular, Blood 3 and Blood 5 looked as if they could barely contain their rage. You're one of the current Shrek's 7 monsters. Holy Spirit Douluo Yali is still alive? Blood 3 asked. Tang Wuling nodded silently in response, and in the next instant, tears began to flow uncontrollably from Blood 3's eyes. Blood 8 hurriedly walked over to her and drew her into a comforting embrace. Don't be sad, Sister 3. Blood 5 cracked his knuckles in a vicious manner. Godslayer missiles, eh? Looks like the Holy Spirit cult has been doing quite well. A burst of substantial killing intent erupted from his body, and the entire hall was trembling slightly. Blood 6 also wore a thunderous expression on his face. After all, the Tang sect headquarters had been destroyed alongside Shrek Academy. Tang Wuling's emotions were more complex. He was feeling quite grief-stricken at the recollection of these painful memories, but he was also struck by a sense of release as he encountered these people who shared the same feelings as him. It was undoubtedly the case that Blood 3 and Blood 5 were most likely Shrek Academy alumni, while Blood 6 belonged to the Tang sect. These could all be powerful allies of his in the future. Teacher Youngming has assigned you the task of reviving Shrek Academy, so you have to do your best. Blood 5 raised his hands before gripping tightly onto Tang Wuling's shoulders. Teacher Youngming. Blood 5 closed his eyes, and he wasn't shedding any tears, but all of the killing intent emanating from his body had turned into grief. Back when I was a student at the academy, Teacher Youngming was my homeroom teacher. That sentence alone was enough to explain his current emotions. Blood 3 had also managed to repress her tears at this point, and she said in a trembling voice, My name is Younglan. Youngming was my cousin and my only remaining relative. Tang Wuling shuddered upon hearing this. He had guessed that these two shared close ties with the academy, but he didn't think that they'd share such a close bond with Youngming. It was no wonder that the amorous Douluo had sent him here. Blood 8 held onto Blood 3's hands, and consoled. Don't be sad, sister. Shrek Academy will definitely return to its former glory someday. Blood 3 nodded in silence as tears continued to flow down her face. Right at this moment, the elevator doors opened again, and 2 people emerged from within. The one walking at the front was an old man with strange energy fluctuations emanating from his body. It was as if he were completely enshrouded with elements. Tang Wuling's heart immediately jolted upon seeing this man. His aura was extremely powerful, and it was as if the natural energies around him were resonating with his body. He had quite an old and wizened appearance with a head of white hair, but his eyes were particularly bright and clear, and they were of a peculiar green color. What's going on, Sister 3? He immediately caught sight of the weeping Blood 3 as soon as he walked into the hall. The man behind him had a tall and slim figure and had a very handsome appearance. Everyone present was wearing suits of white military uniform, and all of the blood gods had major general epaulets, as did the old man who had just walked in, but the one who had entered the room behind the old man had 3 golden stars on his epaulets. This man was a federal general. Chapter 963. This was definitely the highest-ranking military official Tang Wuling had ever seen, yet he appeared to only be in his 30s. The highest military rank in the Douluo Federation was the Commander-in-Chief, who was a 4-star military official, and below that was the Vice-Commander-in-Chief, who was also a 4-star military official. Generals were ranked directly below those two, and there were less than 10 generals in the entire Federation, yet he was looking at one of them right now. To think that there would be a federal general here in the secluded Skynes mountain ranges, could it be that this man was the commander of the entire Blood God Legion? However, generally speaking, even Legion commanders shouldn't be given the military rank of general, and what was even stranger to Tang Wuling was that he couldn't sense any soul power fluctuations from this general's body whatsoever, and it felt as if he were just an ordinary person. I'm fine, Blood 3 sighed as she turned toward the old man before her. The old man then turned his attention to Tang Wuling, and asked, Did you call the 2 of us here because of this young man? Little 8? Blood 8 nodded in response. The old man was also referring to her as Little 8, but she had no objections on this occasion. The old man glanced at Tang Wuling before turning to the 3-star general behind him. Is this young man from your Tang sect? I can sense mysterious heaven method soul power within his body. Tang sect? This 3-star general was from the Tang sect. Tang Wuline's pupils contracted drastically. This was simply incredible to him. He had always known that there would be allies from the Tang sect and Shrek Academy here, but never would he have thought that the Tang sect had a 3-star general among their ranks. If word of this were to spread, would anyone still dare to oppress the Tang sect as they were doing now? The young man stepped forward with a smile on his face and said, "You're Wuline, right? Zhang Xin has already told me about you. Allow me to make an introduction. Everyone, Tang Wuline is a disciple of our Tang sect and also an agent of our battle hall. At the same time, he is the captain of the current generation of Shrek 7 monsters. Wuline, you can call me Blood 1. This is Blood 2. Greetings, superiors." Tang Wuline hurriedly greeted the two of them. Blood 1 waved a hand in response. "There's no need for such formalities in our Blood God battalion. Blood 8 must have brought you here because you've done something that's worthy of our attention, right? How about you fill us in on what's happening?" Thus, Blood 8 played the footage once again and also explained Tang Wuline's situation. Blood 2 wore a surprised look on his face, and he seemed to be appraising Tang Wuline through new eyes. "Brother, if Shrek Academy and the Tang sect needs us, we'll be more than willing to lend you our power," Blood 2 said to Blood 1 in a serious voice. Blood 1 waved a hand and said, "All of us come from the Tang sect, Shrek Academy, the Battle God Hall, or the Spirit Pagoda, but from the moment we came here, especially after we joined the Blood God battalion, our lives no longer belong to us. Instead, they now belong to all of the living beings on the entire continent, and nothing that happens to the Tang sect can change that. There's nothing more important to us than guarding the abyssal passageway. The disaster that befell the Tang sect and Shrek Academy was also very painful for me to hear about, but I can't just leave this place because of that, and none of us have the right to leave. We'll only be able to earn that right if we can completely shut off the abyssal passageway or destroy the abyssal plane. Otherwise, we have to guard this place until the day we die." He spoke in a very resolute manner, and grim expressions appeared on the faces of all of the blood gods. Indeed, nothing was more important than guarding this place, as a truly horrendous disaster would befall the entire continent if the abyssal passageway were to be breached. Who knew how many lives would have to be lost before the passageway could be sealed again, or even if it could be sealed for a second time at all? Hence, no matter how much pain and fury Blood 3 and Blood 5 were experiencing, they still didn't leave the Blood God battalion. They had a duty on their shoulders that was of the utmost importance. Wuline's situation is indeed very special. We can try to see if better use can be made of his golden dragon spear during our battles against the abyssal creatures. Wuline, the task of resurrecting the Tang sect and Shrek Academy will have to fall upon you and your friends. As members of the Blood God battalion, we can only help you by constantly spurring you on to improve in order to accelerate your growth. Tang Wuline had to admit that he was disappointed to hear this. The Blood God battalion had 9 titled Douluo, all of whom were also at least 3 word battle armor masters. This was an extremely formidable force, and if he could gain their assistance, it would undoubtedly be a lot easier for him to revive Shrek Academy. However, with the massive threat of the abyssal passageway looming here, it would indeed be far too selfish of him to expect them to lend him their assistance. Blood 1 praised the silent Tang Wuline and asked, "Does your golden dragon spear's ability to devour abyssal energy result in any side effects?" Tang Wuline shook his head and replied, "There are no side effects, but I'll require some time for digestion if I absorb too much energy." Blood 1 nodded and said, "All right, from now on, you're a fringe member of our Blood God battalion. You'll only receive orders from our battalion, so don't participate in any battles without our instructions. I'll be devising a set of battle tactics that will be specifically tailor-made to suit you." "Yes," Tang Wuline replied in a respectful manner. Blood 1 turned to the others and instructed, "Blood 6, Blood 7, Blood 8, go and reinforce the affected passageways. This abyssal tide is an extremely powerful one, but the good thing is that the Enchantress Empress has been provoked by Wuline into attacking once, so there's no way he'll attack again during this abyssal tide. Wuline, you come with me." Blood 6, Blood 7, and Blood 8 departed, and Blood 1 led Tang Wuline into a room at the very center of the circular hall. The room wasn't very large, but the natural energies inside were extremely abundant. The interior of the room was very simple and minimalistic, and it was only slightly larger than the dormitory room that Tang Wuline was living in. There wasn't even a bed in the room. There were only a few futons on the ground. "Take a seat." Blood 1 pointed at one of the futons. Tang Wuline sat down across from Blood 1. "Truth be told, I was made aware of you a long time ago, and I've constantly been keeping an eye on you. Zhang Xin informed me that you were coming before your arrival, and you're even more exceptional than I'd imagined. I see a lot of hope and potential in you." Tang Wuline didn't say anything. He still had quite a heavy heart as he was wondering what the point of his military service stint was if he couldn't enlist the assistance of the Blood God Legion. Blood 1 said, "You must have thought that Zhang Xin sent you here so you can gain the support of a legion and work toward reviving Shrek Academy and our Tang sect, right? Did my words just then dash those hopes of yours?" Tang Wuline nodded in response. Blood 1 continued, "You're wrong. We decided to send you to this legion not because we wanted you to obtain something from this place. Instead, we want you to learn the importance of responsibility here. To the Tang sect, the Blood God Legion is just as important as the Demonic Island is to Shrek Academy." "Demonic Island? How did he know about the Demonic Island?" Blood 1 smiled and said, "That's right, I know of the Demonic Island, and I was once a student of Shrek Academy. To be more specific, I was the captain of that generation of Shrek 7 monsters, and Yang Ming was also a member of Shrek 7 monsters at the time." Tang Wuline abruptly raised his head with an astonished look on his face. He was the captain of Shrek 7 monsters. Then didn't that mean that he was even more powerful than Heartless Dulo or Yang Ming at the time? In that case, why did Yang Ming become the master of the Sea God's Pavilion in the end? Blood 1 sighed. "Come to think of it, those events took place over a century ago. 100 years have passed by in the blink of an eye, and I've never left this place ever since I came here 60 years ago. I chose to leave the academy following my graduation for the sake of the Tang sect, and I thought that Yang Ming and the others would be more than enough to ensure the prosperity of the academy. But who would have thought that such a tragic disaster would befall the academy?" Chapter 964. A name suddenly appeared in Tang Wuline's mind, and he almost blurted out, "Are you the Heartless Dulo?" This man was superior in power to the Atlas Douluo, held a lofty position in the Tang sect, and was Blood 1 of the Blood God battalion, as well as a federal general. All of this undoubtedly required incredible power to attain, and the only one that Tang Wuline could think of that could fit this description was Heartless Dulo Cao. The Heartless Dulo smiled and said, "You're a smart kid. I knew you'd guess this for yourself. Everyone thinks I decided to disappear and enjoy myself in seclusion, but little do they know that I only found my purpose in life after coming to this place 60 years ago. I've always been here during the past 60 years, and during that time, I've traveled deep into the abyssal realm to gather information. I've led a very eventful and fulfilling life during these past 6 decades, and during that time, I came to understand just how important the Blood God Legion was. Hence, I have to stay here. 60 years ago, I took over from the last Blood 1. He came from the Battle God Hall, and he was their Hall Master from 3 generations ago. Back then, he only told me one thing: the life one leads here is lonely but full of pride. Your life will be a lonesome one, but your soul will be immensely proud." 60 years later, I am in full agreement with his words, and I'm proud of every single soldier of the Blood God Legion, as all of them have proud souls. Hence, when Zhang Xin said that he wanted to send you here to polish you and accelerate your growth, I agreed because I hope that you can also possess a proud soul. This will be very important to your future, and it'll also allow you to see the world more clearly. This man really was a Heartless Dulo. All of Tang Wuline's dejection was wiped away after hearing his words. Reviving Shrek Academy was certainly extremely important, but guarding this abyssal passageway was just as important. He'd been guarding this place every single day for 60 years. What an immense display of will and commitment. Indeed, he really did have a proud soul. Tang Wuline took a deep breath and said, "I still can't fully comprehend your current frame of mind, but I'm willing to stay here until I figure everything out. I understand what you're trying to say, and I'll do everything in my power to improve myself." The Heartless Dulo smiled and said, "Everyone has their own responsibilities. My obligations lay here, whereas you owe your responsibility to the academy. Don't be overly eager to make progress. You have to constantly remember that there's only hope for the academy so long as you're still alive. Even if you fail to revive the academy, you have to establish a strong foundation for the next generation. The current situation on the continent is extremely chaotic, and the continent is being plagued by a series of problems and reforms both on the inside and on the outside. What you need to do now is to improve yourself so you attain the power to protect yourself in this chaotic world." Tang Wuline nodded in an earnest manner. The Heartless Dulo continued, "You're mentally very strong, and I'm very glad to see that. All right, let me tell you about the true situation in the abyssal plane so you can develop a greater understanding of the enemies we're facing. Yes. The smile on the Heartless Dulo's face faded, and he said in a grim voice, the abyssal plane is far more powerful than you can imagine. In that world, there are 108 abyssal levels, and each and every level is connected by spatial passageways. There is an emperor on each level, so there are a total of 108 emperor level beings in the abyssal plane. We refer to them as the 108 abyssal emperors. Among these 108 abyssal emperors, the ones on the first 36 levels are roughly comparable in power to human titled Douluos, so they don't pose much of a threat. The emperors of the middle 36 levels are comparable to our hyper Douluo, so they're also quite manageable. However, the emperors of the final 36 levels are all comparable or even superior to human limit Douluo. In particular, the abyssal emperors of the final 18 levels are all demigod, and the emperor on the 108th level possesses power that's infinitely approaching that of a true god. The energy of the abyssal plane exists in a special state that's completely different from the natural energies of our continent. To them, the natural energies in our world can be converted by them through devouring life force energy, thereby bolstering their entire plane. However, there's nothing useful to us in the abyssal plane. Otherwise, the Federation could potentially agree to mobilize a massive army to wage war against the abyssal plane, but there are no benefits to be reaped from doing that. So the Federation has assigned our blood god legion the task of guarding the abyssal passageway. The energy in the 108 abyssal levels is conserved, which means that all of the energy within the abyssal plane adds up to a certain sum. That sum can't be easily changed, and if it decreases, they have to replenish it through absorbing energy from the outside world. This energy from the outside world that I'm referring to is similar to our life force energy. Hence, after this plane became connected to our world, the abyssal creatures have constantly been trying to invade us in order to elevate the total amount of energy within their plane. In a sense, you can think of the abyssal plane as a complete life form, and those abyssal creatures are only its cells. Following cell death, the energy will be recycled to create new cells, and that's what makes the abyssal plane truly terrifying. We can kill abyssal creatures all we want, but we can't truly destroy them. The abyssal demon monarch and the enchantress empress that attacked you today are all ultra-powerful abyssal beings from the last 36 levels. They're affected by the seal in the abyssal passageway, so they can only project a small portion of their power into this world. Otherwise, there's no way that Blood 8 would have stood a chance against them. As things currently are, only the abyssal emperors on the first 36 levels can descend upon our world in their complete forms. But with me here, those abyssal emperors wouldn't dare to come to our world for no good reason. After all, even though they can be revived, the revival process is an extremely lengthy one. Every time I venture into the abyssal plane, my objective is to kill as many powerful abyssal beings as possible in order to buy more time for us. It's a good thing that the most powerful beings among our human race were able to complete the seal over 6,000 years ago. Otherwise, if the abyssal emperors of the last 36 levels had descended upon our world, we would have faced almost certain annihilation. Human soul technology may be advancing very quickly, but it's still not at a level where it can contend with the power of the abyssal plane. Jiang Wuyue drew a sharp breath upon hearing this. There were 108 abyssal emperors. He finally understood why the Heartless Dulo was so determined to stay here and guard this place. Without a powerful being like him holding things together, the likelihood of the abyssal passageway seal being broken would inevitably increase, and that would result in a disaster of unprecedented proportions that could even spell the end of the entire world. That was not something that could be allowed to happen. What I'm thinking about now is whether you'll be able to completely destroy the abyssal energy of the 108 abyssal emperors by killing them with your golden dragon spear. In that case, they won't be able to resurrect themselves. According to my knowledge, the cause of each of the 108 abyssal levels are none other than their respective emperors. So if an emperor truly dies, then there's a very good chance that the entire abyssal level that they rule over will be destroyed along with all of the abyssal creatures on that level. If that can work, then we'll potentially be able to eradicate the threat of the abyssal plane once and for all. However, the prerequisite for this is that you have to be powerful enough to accomplish this. The final 18 of the 108 emperors are all more powerful than I am, and they've already noticed you. Hence, if you were to venture into the abyssal passageway, an all-out assault will most likely be directed at you, and they won't rest until you're killed, so I can't allow you to take any risks. On this side of the passageway, the seal will restrict all of the more powerful abyssal emperors, so I'm confident in my ability to protect you. However, if we go to the other side, even I won't be able to guarantee your safety. A faint smile appeared on the Heartless Dulo's face, and he continued, hence, the responsibility on your shoulders will only grow heavier from here. If you can also become a limit Douluo in the future, you'll at least be able to protect yourself, and when that time comes, I hope you can venture deep into the abyssal plane with me. Together, we'll try and kill the 108 abyssal emperors and completely eradicate this threat to the continent. A hint of shock appeared in Jiang Wuye's face, and a surge of battle intent also welled up in his heart. If he could kill the 108 abyssal emperors and absorb all of their energy, breaking his future golden dragon king seals would become a simple task. However, just a portion of the Black Empress's energy alone was enough to transform his blood essence vortex into a dragon core. How enormous would the energy of the 108 abyssal emperors be? The Heartless Dulo continued, of course, you're nowhere near powerful enough to set that plan into motion for now, but at the very least, I see hope for the future in you. If you can reach my cultivation level someday, then there's a very good chance that you'll be able to kill some abyssal emperors with your golden dragon spear. In doing so, you'll at least be intimidating them so that they'd have to think twice about invading our world. Jiang Wuyue nodded in response. If he could accomplish that feat someday, then it would definitely be immensely beneficial to himself as well. Chapter 965. You're still young, so I know that you must be very eager to revive the Tang sect and Shrek Academy. However, this is not a feat that can be accomplished in a short time. You need to accumulate more experience and become more powerful. You don't need to worry about anything for now. Shrek Academy may have been destroyed, but its influence definitely won't be that easy to erase, so you'll have sufficient time to improve yourself. This was also Zhang Xin's intention behind sending you here. The outside world is in a state of complete turmoil, and we have to try and restore order to everything. At the same time, we have to wait for a suitable opportunity, and every shred of power that you accumulate now will work toward a greater future. I understand. Jiang Wuyue nodded in a respectful manner. After departing from the Blood God Battalion, Jiang Wuyue was already wearing a new Blood God bracelet. Compared to the one he had before, this new Blood God bracelet had a vibrant red rose pattern around it, and the stem of each and every rose was filled with sharp thorns. This was a symbol of the Blood God Battalion, and from this moment forth, he was officially a fringe member of the Blood God Battalion. As a consequence of this, he would not be permitted to participate in any battles within the abyssal passageway without Blood One's permission. The emergence of Jiang Wuyue seemed to have caught the abyssal plane completely off guard, and the amount of abyssal energy that he absorbed wasn't a lot in the grand scheme of things. But the fact of the matter was that the energy was well and truly gone. As such, this abyssal tide only lasted for 7 days, which was far shorter than other level 3 abyssal tides in the past, and no more powerful abyssal creatures appeared. Jiang Wuyue also stayed away from the battlefield during the rest of the abyssal tide, and he took this opportunity to go into a short period of seclusion, mainly to digest the power within his dragon core, as well as to consolidate the core in general. Initially, the dragon core had only been around the size of a thumbnail, but it had since grown to roughly the size of a longan fruit. It was shimmering with dazzling golden light, and was naturally circulating his bloodline as he breathed. This meant that even if he didn't actively cultivate, the blood essence power within his body would still constantly be nurturing him. At the same time, Jiang Wuyue discovered during his seclusion that some incredible changes had taken place within his body after he attained his dragon core. It was as if it had become more receptive to natural energies, which were being naturally injected into his body as he breathed. It was as if he had become a container that was constantly absorbing all natural energies, then discarding the excess and only fusing the essence into his own body. After attaining his dragon core, his physical constitution had reached a whole new level, similar to the nature of the enhancements received by a soul master after they attained their soul core. The most direct reaction to this was that his appetite had significantly decreased, and he no longer had to eat so much food to replenish his own energy. In fact, just breathing alone was almost enough to completely replenish his body's daily expenditure. On top of that, he felt as if his 10th golden dragon king seal had become thinner. This was only a feeling of his. There was naturally no way that the seal could become thinner on its own. He knew that this was most likely a sign that he already possessed enough power to break this seal. However, he wasn't in a hurry to do so. Each successive golden dragon king seal had to be more dangerous than the previous one, so it was in his best interest to take a slow and steady approach. Even if he could break his 10th seal now, then what about the 11th seal? What about the 12th seal? No one could predict what was going to happen in the future. As such, while Jiang Wuyue was in seclusion, he was honing his ability to control his blood essence power in order to keep it away from the 10th seal. He wasn't going to attempt to break it unless he absolutely had to. During this period of seclusion, his soul power had also increased to rank 59, so he was was only one rank away from becoming a 6-ring Soul Emperor. Ever since his blue silver grass had awakened to become the blue silver Emperor, his rate of cultivation had received a significant boost. This effect was further enhanced by everything that had happened to him in the Dragon Valley. What was most pleasing to him was that he couldn't even sense any bottlenecks ahead of him. As long as he could continue to accumulate and improve like this, he had absolute confidence in his ability to become a titled Douluo before turning 30. Knock knock knock. The sound of door knocking rang out. Tang Wuyue was meditating in his room, and he rose to his feet before opening the door to find Long Yakshu standing outside. Superior. Tang Wuyue hurriedly invited her into the room. Long Yakshu appeared to be in very high spirits. She had also participated in the battle against the Abyssal Tide, and those battles were always quite perilous, but they also presented great opportunities to accumulate accolades, so Long Yakshu certainly wasn't going to back down. What happened after the 8th Blood God took you away that day? Why didn't you come back to participate in the battle? I heard that you were prohibited from taking further part in the battle by the higher-ups. Is that true? Long Yakshu immediately cut straight to the chase. Tang Wuyue replied, perhaps it's due to my golden dragon spear, but the Blood God Battalion did indeed prohibit me from participating in the battle. A perplexed look appeared on Long Yakshu's, and she said, let's go to the battle department. It's time for the reward ceremony. Huh? A surprised look appeared in Tang Wuline's eyes as he asked, what's that? Long Yakshu chuckled. It's good news, of course. During battles, our Blood God bracelets will automatically record the accolades that we earn from killing abyssal creatures. However, following a major battle like this, the accolades have to be standardized. To put it in simpler terms, long-range attackers like me are only able to attack to our heart's content because there are melee combat units holding back the enemies on the front line. Hence, long-range attackers have to give some of their accolades to the melee combatants, and the amount that's given is naturally based on an algorithm devised by the Legion. You were a melee combat soldier during that battle, and you performed exceptionally well during your very first battle, so you'll definitely be receiving a lot of extra accolades. Come to think of it, even if you don't receive any extra accolades from the standardization process, you should still have earned enough for a promotion to the lieutenant rank. You really are lucky. You've only been here for less than a month, yet you've already encountered an abyssal tide. On top of that, this abyssal tide was really brief and passed by after only 7 days. Accolades? Tang Wuyue had completely forgotten about this, but this was definitely good news for him. Thus, he followed Long Yakshu to the battle department, where many soldiers were already accepting accolades with their Blood God bracelets, and there were also some promotion ceremonies taking place as well. As long as enough accolades had been earned, one would be promoted immediately. Hence, there was always a large group of soldiers who received promotions in the aftermath of each abyssal tide. Tang Wuyue stood behind Long Yakshu, and the two of them joined the back of the line. The line progressed very quickly as there were over 10 high-ranking military officials handing out accolades and promotions, and Tang Wuline's eyes were filled with envy and anticipation at the sight of shimmering new epaulettes being distributed. According to what Long Yakshu had said, he would most likely be able to earn a promotion to the lieutenant rank, which took him one step closer to becoming a major. During these past few days, he would make some time every day to call Yuna and chat with her. Yuna always told him how much she missed him during those calls, and if it weren't for his military obligations, Tang Wuyue would be flying back to see her right away. Hence, promotions were particularly important to him. Finally, it was Long Yakshu's turn. She passed her Blood God bracelet over, and it was placed under a special scanning device. The senior colonel before her then smiled, and said, well done, Yakshu, you've really made your father proud. You received 9,710 accolades during this battle, but due to standardization, 3,300 accolades will be taken from you, leaving you with 6,410 accolades. In addition to the accolades you've already saved up, you've earned a promotion to lieutenant colonel. Congratulations. Long Yakshu had already predicted this, but she was still quite elated to hear her promotion being confirmed. It was quite remarkable for someone to become a lieutenant colonel before turning 30. She stood up straight and extended a military salute before stepping forward for her promotion ceremony. Tang Wuyue was naturally right behind her, and he also handed over his Blood God bracelet. Chapter 966. The senior colonel faltered slightly at the sight of his Blood God bracelet before abruptly raising his head. You're from the Blood God Battalion. Tang Wuyue nodded in response. Blood God Battalion fringe member, Tang Wuyue, reporting for duty. The senior colonel examined his Blood God bracelet and said, your Blood God bracelet contains 2 types of accolades, the second of which is battle accolades. You only participated in 1 day of the battle, so you only get accolades for that 1 day. In total, you earned 16,800 accolades. His voice suddenly rose a few octaves, and after some calculations, he continued. In addition to the accolades you received from standardization as a melee combatant, you've earned a total of 21,400 accolades. Tang Wuyue's eyes immediately lit up. Over 20,000 accolades. And these were battle accolades, not accolades earned through forging. He had received so many accolades because he'd constantly been fighting at the very front during the battle, and there was no lack of powerful abyssal creatures like bands that had perished in the face of his golden dragon spear. This was why he'd received over 10,000 accolades prior to standardization, even though he'd only fought on the first day. At the same time, he also received some accolades as a reward for forcing that Black Empress into retreat. Different amounts of accolades were given for different levels of abyssal creatures, and for creatures like demonic enchantresses and Black Empresses, one would receive accolades as a reward just for being able to battle them for set periods of time. You joined the Blood God Battalion. Long Yakshu was just about to head to her promotion ceremony when she quickly rushed back before grabbing onto Tang Wuyue's hand. She stared at the thorned Blood God bracelet on his wrist, and a strong sense of envy appeared in her eyes. Everyone in the Blood God Legion knew that they weren't the main guardians of the abyssal passageway. Instead, that duty fell upon the shoulders of the 9 Blood Gods of the Blood God Battalion. After officially becoming a Blood God, one would immediately be elevated to the Major General rank. This meant that they were constantly required to remain in the Legion, but it was a scintillating honor for someone to become a Blood God, and even their descendants would benefit from this as the Federation would give them special benefits. All descendants of a Blood God within 3 generations had many special rights in the Federation, and Blood Gods themselves had fringe voting rights in the Federal Parliament. They were the true guardians of the Federation, and they were revered by countless people. Tang Wuyue replied in a natural manner, I'm just a fringe member. A peculiar look immediately appeared on Long Yakshu's face. The Blood God Battalion obviously didn't just consist of the 9 Blood Gods. Some exceptional members of the Blood God Legion were enlisted as fringe members of the Blood God Battalion and even backup Blood Gods. This was the first step to becoming a future Blood God. She could already deduce that Tang Wuyue had most likely been enlisted as a fringe member of the Blood God Battalion due to his golden dragon spear, but even so, it was still a massive honor to be able to join the Blood God Battalion, especially after taking into account the fact that he'd only been in the Blood God Legion for less than a month. She had been living in the Blood God Legion all her life, so how could she not be envious? After joining the Blood God Battalion, Tang Wuyue no longer belonged to any other department of the Blood God Legion. Instead, he took orders solely from the Blood God Battalion, and she wouldn't be able to command him to do anything from now on. She couldn't help but recall back to what her father had said to her. He came from Shrek Academy and was the captain of the current generation of Shrek's 7 monsters. A diamond would shine no matter where it was placed, and even in the Blood God Legion, which was rife with brilliant prodigies, he was already beginning to prove himself after only less than a month here. At the very least, the 1st and 2nd battalions of the Blood Division's Iron Will Call were aware that there was a soldier capable of releasing a domain that could drastically enhance the combat prowess of all ally units. It was exactly because of Tang Wuyue's violent golden dragon domain that the melee combat battalions were able to kill so many enemies on that day while minimizing casualties. Both the 1st and 2nd battalions had a very good first impression of Tang Wuyue, and even Jiang Wuyue was full of glowing praise for him, and was adamant that they were brothers. He'd already reached such heights after less than a month. What would become of him in 1 year? In 2 years? Wasn't he going to eventually become one of the 9 Blood Gods? Long Yakshu was getting carried away by her train of thought, and Tang Wuyue reminded, Superior, you should go to your promotion ceremony now. Oh. Only then did Long Yakshu return to her senses, but her excitement from being promoted to the lieutenant colonel rank had waned significantly. Tang Wuyue was also quite curious about what rank he'd be elevated to with his accolades. The accolades that Long Yakshu had saved up most likely didn't exceed 20,000, yet it was already enough to promote her from major to lieutenant colonel. In contrast, his accolades had already exceeded 20,000, so surely he'd be granted a very significant promotion. Tang Wuyue looked on as Long Yakshu's 2 bars and 1 star became 2 bars and 2 stars, and he was filled with excitement as he also strode toward the stage. Members of the Blood God Battalion can't be promoted here. Your military rank will be determined by the Blood God Battalion. You can leave now. The military official that was handing out promotions immediately poured a figurative bucket of cold water over his head. After becoming a member of the Blood God Battalion, he answered only to the Blood God Battalion, so the Legion wouldn't even grant him promotions anymore. Tang Wuyue could only turn to Long Yakshu for help. Superior. A wry smile appeared on Long Yakshu's face. Those are the rules, so I can't help you here. Also, don't call me superior from now on. The Blood God Battalion holds a paramount position in our legion, and even if you're only a fringe member, you're still completely out of our reach. This entails that you'll be sacrificing much more than we will in the future. You can refer to me by my name. Go and ask the Blood God Battalion about your promotion. As a fringe member of the Blood God Battalion, many of the rules of the legion no longer apply to you. All right then. A complex expression appeared in Long Yakshu's as she looked on at Tang Wulin's departing figure. When would she get to become a fringe member of the Blood God Battalion? After arriving at the Blood God Battalion, Tang Wulin was able to enter the elevator with his new Blood God bracelet and arrived in that circular hall again. However, he was immediately at a loss for what to do as soon as he arrived because there was no one there, and he had no idea how to contact any of the other members of the Blood God Battalion. What could he do? All he could do was wait. Thus, Tang Wulin sat down on the ground and began to meditate. A blood god would turn up sooner or later, so he would just have to wait for them. After an indeterminate amount of time, Tang Wulin sensed another presence in the room, and he awakened from his meditation. Are you new to the Blood God Battalion? Why are you meditating here? A young man in a military uniform with Major General epaulets on his shoulders was appraising Tang Wulin with a curious look on his face. This man appeared to be in his 20s, and he was quite handsome. He wore a smile on his face and appeared to be quite approachable. From his epaulets, Tang Wulin was immediately able to deduce that this was one of the 9 blood gods. All of the 9 blood gods were above the Major General rank, and Blood One was even a general. Tang Wulin immediately stood up and extended a military salute. Greetings, superior. No need for formalities. What's the situation with you? Tang Wulin replied, my name is Tang Wulin, and I've only just joined the Blood God Battalion as a fringe member. I wanted to come and find Superior Blood One and ask him about what I should do next. An enlightened look appeared on the young man's face. I see. If you want to contact any one of us, you can just do so through your Blood God bracelet. Here, I'll teach you how to do that. Oh, by the way, I'm Blood 9. Blood 9? So this was the blood god that he didn't get to meet the other day. Tang Wulin had already learned that among the blood gods of the Blood God Battalion, Blood 3 and Blood 5 were from Shrek Academy, Blood 1 and Blood 6 were from the Tang Sect, Blood 2, Blood 8, and Blood 9 were from the Battle God Hall, and Blood 4 and Blood 7 were from the Spirit Pagoda. Thus, 3 of the 9 blood gods were from the Battle God Hall, which gave the Battle God Hall the largest number of blood gods among the 4 super organizations. However, taking into account the fact that Blood 1 was the master of the entire Tang Sect, the blood gods from the Tang Sect were still the most powerful overall. Thank you, superior. Only now was Tang Wulin made aware of the difference between his Rose Blood God bracelet and normal Blood God bracelets. There was a special communication system in his bracelet that could allow him to contact any of the 9 blood gods, and all of the blood gods could also contact him through the same system. As a fringe member, he couldn't get into direct contact with the 9 blood gods. He could only leave messages and wait for responses. Tang Wulin immediately left Blood 1 a message according to Blood 9's instructions, asking Blood 1 what he should do next. To his surprise, Blood 1 responded very quickly. The location tracking service tells me you're currently at the Blood God Battalion. Wait for me there. Boss is asking you to wait for him here. Awesome. I wanted to meet him as well, Blood 9 chuckled. Thank you, superior, Tang Wulin said in a heartfelt manner. This Blood 9 seemed to be a very easygoing person who was eager to help wherever he could. Blood 9 smiled and said, I heard from the others that you're from Shrek Academy, right? What happened to Shrek Academy truly is a great shame. When news of the incident first reached the Legion, Blood 3 and Blood 5 almost left their posts to return to Shrek City, and Blood 1 almost had to stop them by force. Chapter 967. Even though a very long time had already passed, Tang Wulin was still struck by a sense of dejection whenever this incident was mentioned. A wry smile appeared on his face. The academy was destroyed, yet we don't even know where our enemies are, and we have no idea how many people were involved. However, we'll definitely rebuild Shrek Academy no matter what. The glory of Shrek Academy definitely won't die in our generation. I believe in you. As a blood god, I can only offer you moral support. After all, we all have a duty here, so we can't go anywhere. Blood 9 patted Tang Wulin's shoulder in an encouraging manner. From his outward appearance alone, he appeared to be around the same age as Tang Wulin. Right at this moment, the elevator door was opened, and Blood 1 strode into the room. Tang Wulin couldn't help but falter slightly at the sight of him. In contrast with Blood 1's demeanor during their last meeting, he clearly had a sense of killing intent radiating from his body today. Due to his immensely powerful bloodline, Tang Wulin was particularly sensitive to the auras of others, and he could sense that Blood 1's aura fluctuations were making his bloodline fluctuate violently as well. Blood 9 raised an eyebrow and smiled as he asked, Did you go to the abyssal passageway again, boss? Blood 1 nodded in response. They retreated very quickly this time, so I had to go and have a look in case they're plotting something else. They backed off really early on this occasion, and neither side suffered many losses. It looks like they were scared off rather than plotting anything sinister. Blood 9 faltered slightly upon hearing this. Scared off? By who? A faint smile appeared on Blood 1's face, and he pointed at Tang Wulin. Blood 9 turned to Tang Wulin with a surprised look on his face. By him? How? Blood 1 smiled and said, I'll tell you about that later. Wulin, I've organized something for you to do. I'm going to be assigning a mission to you today. I'm ready to hear it. Tang Wulin's heart stirred slightly, but he was also quite eager to hear this task. Blood 1 continued, You have to prepare for battle and prime yourself to your peak condition for the task I'm about to assign you. Yes. Blood 9 asked in a puzzled manner, The abyssal tide is already over. What mission could you possibly have for him? Blood 1 smiled and said, Have you forgotten about the latest technology released by the Federation? Blood 9 was immediately enlightened. You want him to participate in that? That's right. The event will be quite safe for him to participate in, and he won't have to worry about giving anything away. You can go back for now. Wulin, I'm going to contact you via Blood God bracelet later. I have to do some preparatory work for your mission, and the mission will commence in 3 days. Yes, Tang Wulin replied again, but he didn't immediately depart. Instead, he was looking at Blood 1 with a hopeful expression as he continued. Superior, I just went to the battle department to receive my accolades for the recently concluded battle, and they told me that I have to come to the Blood God Battalion for a promotion. So, Blood 1 was Heartless Dulo who was most definitely someone that he could trust. As such, Tang Wulin had no qualms in confiding in him. Blood 1 smiled and asked, How many accolades have you saved up? Tang Wulin replied, Over 20,000. Blood 1 faltered slightly before bursting into laughter. You earned over 20,000 accolades after participating in only one battle? Looks like you really did devour a lot of abyssal energy. No wonder 2 of those old bastards were provoked into directly attacking you. I'm guessing that they most likely retreated to discuss measures against you, and that's why this abyssal tide concluded so quickly. 20,000 accolades is enough to promote you to the captain rank. However, don't be in a hurry to redeem your accolades yet. If you can successfully complete this mission, I'll make an executive decision to promote you straight to major, so you can just wait until then for your promotion. Tang Wulin's eyes immediately widened upon hearing this. You can do that. He was already very elated to hear that he'd earned a promotion to the captain rank, but if he could become a major, then didn't that mean he could visit your unit every week? That would be fantastic. Thank you for this opportunity, superior. I'll go back to prepare right away. Tang Wulin departed, and Blood 9 turned to Blood 1, only to find that a grim expression had appeared on his face. You don't look all that pleased, boss, Blood 9 said with a perplexed look on his face. Blood 1 explained in a grave voice, Wulin's emergence is a brilliant opportunity for us, but it could also be the catalyst for a catastrophic disaster. It's hard to say how the situation will play out, but he was revealed to the abyssal plane far too early. I've already told the corps commander to further bolster our defensive lines. This abyssal tide may have concluded quite quickly, but I'm very concerned that the next one will strike us soon. At the Spirit Pagoda headquarters, Jiang Wuyue sat in the main seat and said in a serious voice, The newest technology released by the Federation is about to be officially activated soon. Not only do we need to participate in this event, we have to do extremely well. The person sitting beside him was the heavenly phoenix Douluo, while another middle-aged man was sitting on his other side. All of the people present seemed to be high-ranking figures in the Spirit Pagoda. This newest technology released by the Federation is quite monumental. In reality, it was invented quite a while ago, but it's been constantly undergoing testing. The destruction of Shrek Academy and the Tang Sect headquarters has plunged the entire continent into chaos, and the Federation has chosen to release this piece of technology at a time like this partially as a means to divert the attention of the public. Yaoshu, how are things going on your end? Have you still not found your disciple? Heavenly Phoenix Leng Yaoshu replied in an indifferent voice. I've already gotten into contact with my disciple. She's currently very well and will be participating in the event. Jiang Wuyue nodded in a pleased manner. We can't afford to fail here as the expansion of our scope of influence will hinge on our ability to secure a good result. We've already secured a quarter of the total number of seats in the new parliament. If we can attain an even greater level of influence through this competition, that would be greatly beneficial to implementing the next step of our plan. Leng Yaoshu glanced at him and didn't say anything. As the vice chairman of the Spirit Pagoda, she had known Kaiengyu Dongfang for far too long to not be aware of what his ultimate objective was. He was an extremely ambitious man, and his goal was to mold the Spirit Pagoda into an organization like the Spirit Hall that existed over 20,000 years ago. He was trying to make the Spirit Pagoda an organization that transcended beyond and controlled the entire Federation. She had no concrete evidence of this, but she firmly believed that he had played a role behind the disaster that had befallen Shrek Academy. The latest technology from the Federation? That sounds really interesting. There are designated participation sites in every major city, and all of the Spirit Pagoda branches in all of the major cities can also participate. It said that the competition will be held in a setting that resembles the Spirit Pagoda's Spirit Ascension plane, but it'll be a little different. This latest technology is going to encompass the entire continent, and they want as many Soul Masters as possible to participate in the event. Every Soul Master's abilities and bodily conditions will be perfectly scanned and simulated to ensure absolute fairness. This piece of technology will be immensely beneficial to improving a Soul Master's practical combat skills, and it'll be especially helpful to mecha pilots. I've heard that as well. In the past, only major organizations have had access to similar pieces of technology, but they've all been incomplete and can't be interconnected. This time, everything's different as the Federation is releasing this technology, so all of the systems will be unified. The Federation is hosting this competition and offering such valuable prizes in order to attract as many Soul Master participants as possible, thereby allowing them to promote this new technology. It said that this system has already been tested in the military to great effect. It'd be awesome if all of this were true. What are we waiting for then? Let's go and sign up as well. It's all free anyway, so we can just participate to accrue experience, if nothing else. Are there any restrictions? I've heard that everyone can participate as long as they're not Heartless Dulo or 3-word battle armor masters. Apparently, the system is still unable to handle battles between 3-word battle armor masters as the external firmware isn't strong enough. Even after being scanned into the system, the energy radiating from the bodies of 3-word battle armor masters during battle could still easily damage the system. In short, you can't be a title Douluo, and if you're a 3-word battle armor master, you're prohibited from using your battle armor. Aside from that, anyone is allowed to participate. Chapter 968. Will the battles be exclusively one-on-one or will there be group battles as well? There are no group battles for now. This edition of the competition is split up into 2 sections, one for mechas and the other for Soul Masters, and all of the matches will be one-on-one battles. This is a competition that takes participants from all over the entire Federation, so the finals will only be held after the regional competitions. It said that all Soul Masters that can reach the finals will be given very good prizes, and those who can make the top 16 receive even greater rewards. Apparently, the final champion will receive all of the resources required to construct a red mecha or heavenly refined metals that can be used to construct a suit of 4-word battle armor. That's absolutely insane. Star Battle Net. Tang Wuyue looked at the information that had been sent to him by Blood One, and a surprised look appeared in his eyes. The latest technology released by the Federation allowed Soul Masters to enter the Star Battle Net to engage in simulated battles through pieces of equipment known as Star Cabins. The premise was kind of similar to the Spirit Pagoda's Spirit Ascension plane, but there was no limit on the number of participants, and it couldn't enhance one's soul rings like the Spirit Ascension plane could, so there was no conflict of interest between this technology and the Spirit Pagoda. The main benefit of this new technology was that it provided a platform for all Soul Masters and Mega Pilots to compete against one another. This entire Star Battle Net was the first prototype that had just been released to the general public, and it was said that it was constantly going to be upgraded in the future. The mission that Blood One had assigned to Tang Wuyue was for him to participate in the Star Battle Net competition and finish in the top 3. Tang Wuyue's lips twitched upon seeing this. He had thought that even if the mission were going to be very difficult, he would definitely be able to complete it. However, after assessing the details of the Battle Net competition, his confidence had been severely dented. All Soul Masters below the titled Douluo stage could enter this competition, so that included 8 ring Soul Douluos. Even with the restriction against suits of 3-word battle armor, there had to be many Soul Douluos and Soul Sages who were also 2-word battle armor masters. With their suits of 2-word battle armor, they possessed powers comparable to that of Hyper Douluos. This was a competition that encompassed the entire continent. He was quite confident in his own abilities, but he certainly wasn't confident enough to think that he was invincible below the titled Douluo stage. Blood One's objective behind assigning him this mission was quite simple. He wanted Tang Wuyue to hone his practical combat skills during this competition and continue to improve himself by battling powerful opponents. Tang Wuyue was in full approval of this, but the mission was still way too difficult to complete. If he only had to finish in the top 32, then he'd still be relatively confident, but top 3 was an entirely different story. A lack of confidence didn't directly translate to a lack of battle intent. After all, he had always grown stronger in the face of adversity. A Star Cabin had been carried directly into his dormitory room. The dormitory room that he was currently staying in was in the Blood God Battalion, as opposed to the one that he'd been staying in before. The fringe members of the Blood God Battalion lived on the level above the circular hall, but their living conditions didn't improve much. Only the most basic of facilities were offered to them. The rooms were slightly larger, but there was actually less living space compared to his previous room due to the presence of this Star Cabin. This thing took up around 8 square meters of space, and it resembled an enlarged coffin. It also appeared to be quite complex, so it had most likely been quite expensive to produce. Not only did the Blood God Battalion have these Star Cabins, the rest of the Legion also had access to them. Furthermore, Tang Wuyue had heard from Leng Yaoshu that their Legion was among the first batch of people to be testing out the Star Battle Net. But even so, there were only 50 Star Cabins in total in the entire Legion. Apparently, these things were extremely expensive to construct, and shipping them here had also been quite difficult. The Star Cabins in the Legion couldn't be reserved, so people had to line up to use them. As such, the rooms where the cabins were situated were always packed to the rafters, and that was why Leng Yaoshu hadn't taken Tang Wuyue to the Star Cabins before. As such, Tang Wuyue had been quite excited to see that he had a personal Star Cabin all to himself. This was the latest technology released by the Federation, so it could definitely be considered to be a luxury product. Let's give it a try. The registration process has already commenced, and the regional competitions will be held in 2 days. Prior to the commencement of the regional competitions, I have to complete my registration, and after that, I can familiarize myself with the Star Battle Net. Tang Wuyue pressed a button to open his Star Cabin before stepping into it. The internal structure of this thing was very complex. At the very least, it was far more complex than the equipment used at the Spirit Ascension plane. Even after the cabin cover closed, there was no sense of oxygen deprivation at all. Various types of metallic lines adhered themselves onto his body, while a series of metal rungs locked his body into place. These measures were designed to prevent energy seepage during his battles in the Star Battle Net. All of the connections were only completed after about 5 minutes, and Tang Wuyue was starting to feel like a lab rat. All of a sudden, his vision completely darkened, and an electronic voice sounded. The Star Cabin is fully prepared. Would you like to enter the Star Battle Net? The voice was extremely mechanical, and it wasn't very pleasant to listen to. Yes. He then abruptly jolted as powerful electrical currents ran through his entire body, making him feel as if he'd become a part of an electrical circuit. It was no wonder that normal people weren't permitted to use these Star Cabins. Without a sufficiently powerful physical constitution, just this soul energy scanning process would most likely cause irreversible damage to a normal person's body. Just as these thoughts were running through his mind, he was struck by a rush of dizziness, and when he returned to his senses, his vision had already returned to him. He wasn't taken directly to another world, as was the case when he entered the Spirit Ascension plane. Instead, there were all types of numbers and binary codes flashing before his eyes. Body scan complete. Connection to the Star Battle Net has been successfully established. Please state through verbal communication what you would like to do, and the Battle Net will process your verbal request. I want to register to participate in the Star Battle Net Inter-Federation competition. This thing didn't seem to be all that high-tech. All right, we'll begin registration right away. What is your name? Tang Wuyue hesitated momentarily before stating his real name. Blood One had told him that he and Zhang Xin had arranged for him to join the Blood God Legion, as he wouldn't have to worry about his cover being blown here. In this place, he was absolutely safe, and no one would come to hunt him down here. Aside from the fact that the Blood God Legion held an extremely lofty position in the military and in the entire Federation, very few people knew of its specific location, so this was a very safe place. On top of that, the Star Battle Net had brilliant confidentiality, and the internal information was only recorded by the mainframe of the Battle Net. After this information was recorded, all of the Soul Masters who joined the Battle Net would be given a certain rank, and that rank could only be improved according to one's battle record. Even the Federal Parliament couldn't access the information in the Battle Net mainframe unless approval was secured from the entire Parliament. This effectively circumvented the possibility of people with sinister intentions gathering information through the Battle Net mainframe. The system asked a series of questions as part of Tang Wuyue's registration process. You can give yourself a nickname, and that nickname will be what's displayed to your opponents during the competition. Tang Wuyin considered this for a moment. I'll go with Golden Dragon King. Golden Dragon Turtle, please confirm. Tang Wuyin was left feeling rather speechless. Golden Dragon King. Golden Dragon King, please confirm. Yes, the electronic voice sounded in reply. Sorry, the nickname you've selected has already been taken. If Tang Wuyin could see his own face right now, he discovered that his expression had completely darkened. Please choose another nickname. Little Tang. Tang Wuyin could only give himself a random nickname. Little Tang? Please confirm. Yes. You have successfully set your nickname as Little Tang. Tang Wuyin, soul power rank 59, special physical constitution, what appears to be a dragon-type bloodline, unreasonable levels of physical prowess. You have been deemed as a supremely talented soul master. The registration is now complete. Would you like to sign up for the Star Battle Net Inter-Federation competition? Yes. Tang Wuyin's heart was filled with shock. He had discovered something that was quite extraordinary to him during the registration process. In the past, regardless of whether he was in the Spirit Pagoda Spirit Ascension plane or some kind of similar simulation world, he had never been able to interact and communicate with those worlds. However, this electronic voice was holding a conversation with him, which was the equivalent of the entire Star Battle Net communicating with him. Tang Wuyin finally understood why this was such a monumental piece of technology. The technology wasn't extraordinary due to the simulation system. Instead, it was the artificial intelligence element that was very remarkable. To think that technology in the Federation had developed to such an extent that even artificial intelligence could be planted into simulation systems. Even though this system still appeared to be quite rough around the edges and was a lot less refined than the Spirit Ascension plane, the fact that artificial intelligence had been integrated into it made it far superior in caliber to the Spirit Ascension plane. The internal framework of the system wasn't difficult to set up, but this artificial intelligence technology was a massive stride. This electronic voice that was extremely mechanical and rather unpleasant to listen to was most likely the prototype of artificial intelligence, and it was the first time that humans had put artificial intelligence into practical application. This was a groundbreaking development. As opposed to saying that this competition provided an opportunity for Soul Master to experience this cutting-edge technology, it could instead be said that this artificial intelligence system was being tested through the battles between all of these Soul Masters. If artificial intelligence were to be gradually perfected, human technology could very likely enter another period of highly accelerated growth. Chapter 969. Even though Tang Wuyin had a very negative impression of the Federation, he had to admit that the Federation had some exceptional scientists. He didn't know much about the practical applications of artificial intelligence, but he could imagine how drastically people's lives would change once artificial intelligence became more prevalently used in all major fields. Light flashed, and the scenes around him changed before he found himself standing on a street. At the same time, a voice sounded beside his ears. You've entered the Western Competition region. Please follow the arrows to head to the Western Competition region lobby. At the same time, please select your mode of battle. Would you like to participate in a Soul Master battle or a Mecha battle? A shimmering white arrow appeared before Tang Wuyin, and after following it for a while, he soon caught sight of a building that was as massive as a sports stadium. He could also see that there were many other people making their way toward the building just like him. From the outside, this simulated world was nowhere near as realistic as the Spirit Ascension plane. There were many areas that had to be improved, but taking into account the existence of artificial intelligence in this system, nothing else was all that important. After entering the massive Western Competition region arena, light flashed in front of Tang Wuyin, and a light screen appeared. Please select your mode of battle. Tang Wuyin chose both Soul Master battle and Mecha battle without any hesitation. A large block of text was then displayed on the screen, and at the very top were the words registration success in large font. This clearly indicated that his registration process was complete. Following that was a list of rules for the Mecha battles and Soul Master battles. Due to the large number of contestants, the entire Federation was split up into 8 competition regions, and the competition region that one belonged to was determined through the star cabin that they were using. Tang Wuyin was situated in the Sky and Mountain ranges, so he naturally belonged to the Western Competition region. The Mecha battle section only presented 2 options for the mechas that could be chosen: long range or melee. There were no other options, and the enclosed explanation for this was that this was supposed to be a pure contest of mecha piloting skills, so one could experience what it was like to use the competition stipulated mechas beforehand, but they couldn't specify exactly what kind of mecha they wanted. This was undoubtedly very troublesome to many mecha pilots. Everyone was quite familiar with their own mechas, and their combat prowess would be significantly dented if they were to use completely unfamiliar mechas instead. However, taking into account the fact that this system was only in its infancy, Tang Wuyin felt this to be quite understandable. After all, if everyone brought their own mecha into this simulated world, how much extra data would that result in? Furthermore, a battle between mechas should indeed be purely based on the skills of the mecha pilots. Some mecha pilots with inferior skills could have access to better materials and weapons for their mechas, and that would simply make everything quite unfair. Hence, this rule made everything a lot fairer. The Soul Master battles were even simpler. They were just straightforward battles. One had to first make it into the top 32 in their regional competitions before they could qualify for the finals. The format of the regional competitions was decided based on the number of participants, and generally speaking, the rounds consisted primarily of elimination battles. The rules were very simple. Due to the fact that everyone was in the Star Battle Net, they didn't have to worry about hurting their opponents. As such, they could unleash their powers to their heart's content and do everything they could do to beat their opponents. It was as simple as that. However, the simpler the rules of a competition were, the harsher the competition would be. Elimination battles entailed that if you were unlucky and encountered a powerful being in the first round, then he could be eliminated in the very first round. Tang Wuyin's lips twitched as he thought back to the horrendous luck he'd experienced during the competition he participated in on the Douluo continent. He could only hope that his luck would be better in this Star Battle Net. Even so, no matter how he looked at it, making it into the top 3 was far too difficult. After all, he would be facing all of the powerful Soul Masters on the continent who were below the title Douluo level and hadn't yet attained their suits of 3-word battle armor. He could only do his best. He wondered if his friends would also be participating in this competition. The confidential nature of this system ensured that their identities wouldn't be leaked, which was quite a good thing as that at least ensured that he wouldn't attract much attention in the initial rounds. It was just a pity that there were no partners or group battles. Otherwise, he'd actually have a greater chance. Of course, that train of thought only surfaced briefly in his mind before he dismissed it. He wasn't with his friends at the moment, so even if they were participating in this competition, there was no way for them to find one another and form teams in the Star Battle Net. After reading through the instructions, Tang Wuyin waved a hand, and the light screen before him disappeared on its own. He then made a lap around the inside of the sports stadium to assess what the competition venue was like and familiarize himself with everything. The internal arrangement of the sports stadium wasn't very complex, and everything was quite aesthetically pleasing. There were a few noteworthy areas to him. The stadium was divided into 2 sections, one for Mega battles, and the other for Soul Master battles. At the same time, the Soul Masters who registered for both modes of battle had their battle times arranged by the system so that there were no clashes. There were some experiences available in both of the battle areas. All one had to do was make a selection, and they'd be able to enter one of the areas to participate in a practice match. However, federal credits were required to access this feature. I have to pay. As a stingy cheapskate, Tang Wuyin's eyes immediately widened. This was way too inhumane, and the prices weren't cheap, either. Using a combat room in the Mecha area once cost 2,000 federal credits, while a combat room in the Soul Master area cost 1,000 federal credits for hire. This essentially meant that it cost 1,000 or 2,000 federal credits just for a single practice battle. Why don't these guys go and rob a bank? Tang Wuyin exclaimed with a speechless look on his face. Right at this moment, a voice sounded from beside him. Even robbing a bank won't generate income as quickly as this. Tang Wuyin turned around to find that someone had appeared beside him without him noticing. After entering this battle net, everyone's appearances had been concealed to a certain extent, and masks had also been given to all of the participants. All of the masks were white, and their clothes were all entirely grey in color, so they looked as mundane could be. The only things that set them apart were the nicknames hovering above their heads. The man beside him had the nickname between 4 and 6 above his head. It was a rather strange nickname. These prices are ridiculous. Tang Wulin sighed. Between 4 and 6 nodded firmly in agreement. Do you want to give this a try? Tang Wulin said in a resigned manner. Well, I have to get in some practice in this venue before the competition begins. I wonder how I can transfer my federal credits into this simulation. Oh, his voice had only just trailed off when the artificial intelligence system swooped in again. A light screen appeared before him, and an electronic voice sounded once again. Would you like to top up some federal credits? Tang Wulin couldn't help but grit his teeth with fury. The Federation wasn't even trying to hide the fact that this was a complete money grab. I'll top up 10,000 federal credits for now. Tang Wulin gritted his teeth and topped up 10,000 of his remaining federal credits. After topping up, he discovered that the number 10,000 had appeared in the bottom left corner of his field of view. Should we give this a try? Between 4 and 6 seemed to have also topped up some credits, and he extended an invitation toward Tang Wulin. Between 4 and 6 has extended a challenge to you. You'll need to spend 1,000 federal credits to access the combat room. Tang Wulin was only here to accrue some experience anyway, so he decided to accept. Two beams of light immediately descended from the sky before shining down upon the two of them. Their vision blurred, and in the next instant, they found themselves in another setting. It was actually completely identical to a real sports stadium here, and it was only larger in area. They were situated on a massive competition platform that was over 300 meters in diameter, and it was truly an extremely grand sight to behold. There was enough space for them to unleash all of their power, and there were many seats around the stadium, but of course, there were no spectators. 3, 2, 1, begin. The electronic voice cut straight to the chase without giving them any time to prepare. The two of them had only just appeared 100 meters apart on the platform before the countdown immediately commenced. Tang Wulin and between 4 and 6 were both praising one another, and in the next instant, the two of them charged toward each other in unison. Neither of them had released their martial souls right away, and the distance of 100 meters was being closed down at a rapid rate. The two of them released their martial souls almost in complete synchronicity when they were only around 20 meters away from one another. Chapter 970. Several dozens of blue silver emperor vines shot forth at once as Tang Wulin activated his first soul skill, bind. Meanwhile, between 4 and 6's body instantly swelled in size as 6 soul rings abruptly appeared beneath his feet. He was looking rather familiar. One blue silver emperor vine shot forth after another, binding between 4 and 6 tightly. Between 4 and 6's body had already grown to around 7 meters tall, and he thrashed about violently, using the blue silver emperor vines to whip Tang Wulin up into the air before slamming him viciously down toward the ground. What immense strength! Tang Wulin immediately released his connection between those blue silver emperor vines, and at the same time, the blue silver impaling array appeared on the ground before stabbing toward his opponent. Between 4 and 6's body stiffened slightly, but dark golden light then began to radiate from his body, and he recovered after less than a third of the time that the blue silver impaling array was normally supposed to restrict its target for. At this point, Tang Wulin had just sprung to his feet after rolling onto the ground to break his own fall, and his fourth soul ring immediately lit up, causing all of his blue silver emperor vines to expand drastically in size. He had learned to disguise his soul rings on the demonic island, and he was currently making it appear as if he had 2 yellow soul rings alongside 3 purples. It was a very normal soul ring configuration. He unleashed his blue silver overlord transformation, then conjured up his blue silver impaling array again. The blue silver emperor vines that erupted from the ground were far more massive than the previous ones, and the dark golden scales that had appeared all over between 4 and 6's were struck by an enormous force. As a result, he fell into a brief period of disorientation, and Tang Wulin stomped his left foot into the ground, propelling himself through the air like a cannonball. His fist struck his opponent's chest, and in that instant, he felt as if he just punched a resolute city wall rather than a person. However, his immense power still sent between 4 and 6 flying through the air, as opposed to charging forward to press his advantage. A faint smile appeared on Tang Wulin's face. Greetings, superior. Between 4 and 6 had already recovered from the paralysis effect of the blue silver impaling array after he landed on the ground, and he was feeling rather speechless as he experienced the intense pain in his chest while witnessing the figure that was descending from above. Tang Wulin. It's me. Tang Wulin released his golden dragon king bloodline aura with a faint smile on his face as he spoke, and between 4 and 6's bloodline was instantly completely dominated. Why the hell did I have to meet you here? Between 4 and 6 was none other than Jiang Wuyue. Tang Wulin had already recognized him when he released his martial soul. Tang Wulin merely chuckled in response. He hadn't seen Jiang Wuyue ever since they had battled alongside one another on that day. I heard you became a fringe member of the Blood God Battalion? Jiang Wuyue made no effort to hide the envy in his voice. Tang Wulin nodded in response. Jiang Wuyue said, "Don't call me superior anymore. From now on, we're brothers. This is also my first time here, and it's pretty interesting. It's different from our Legion's simulation system, and the directions that are presented make this system a lot more convenient to navigate. Indeed, the artificial intelligence system is quite a significant technological breakthrough from the Federation. At the very least, it's a good beginning. Do you still want to continue, superior?" Tang Wulin asked. Jiang Wuyue dusted himself off as he replied, "Of course. I didn't get to fight you to my heart's content last time, and we're not actually going to get injured here, so come at me. Fight me with everything you have and show me what you're made of. I'm not going to be holding back today. Also, I already told you not to call me superior. Just call me Wuyue instead." "Sure." Facing an opponent with battle intent as strong as Jiang Wuyue's was a great opportunity for Tang Wulin as well. Jiang Wuyue immediately released his suit of 2-word battle armor without any hesitation. The inky black battle armor was shimmering with a faint metallic gleam, and after it encapsulated his entire body, Tang Wulin felt as if he were looking at a real tyrant dragon. Jiang Wuyue let loose a long roar, and his powerful bloodline aura swelled in a frenzy, allowing it to just barely contend with Tang Wulin's golden dragon king bloodline. Tang Wulin certainly wasn't going to look down on Jiang Wuyue. He also immediately released his own suit of 2-word battle armor, and the circuits within his battle armor began to inject bursts of enormous power into his body. His soul power and blood essence power were both severely enhanced, and golden light began to radiate from his body as he spread open his dragon wings. "Come at me." Jiang Wuyue let loose an explosive roar while flapping his massive wings with all his might. His body hurtled toward Tang Wulin like a ferocious meteor, and his giant hammers also appeared in his grasp before he brought them down with devastating force. He hadn't used his weapons nor his battle armor during their last sparring match. Golden light flashed, and the golden dragon spear appeared in Tang Wulin's hand. At the same time, scintillating light erupted from the dragon core within Tang Wulin's chest, and his blood essence power spread through his entire body. If his bloodline power had flowed throughout his body like a massive river in the past, then ever since he'd attained his dragon core, his bloodline power had been flowing like streams of light. How could the flow of water compare with the speed of light? As such, it only took an instant before Tang Wulin's blood essence was elevated to its very maximal extent. Break. Tang Wulin roared. Boom. The entire combat room trembled violently, and Jiang Wuyue's massive scaled body, as well as his pair of giant hammers, were all flung up into the air by Tang Wulin's golden dragon spear. Due to the enhancements from his battle armor, Tang Wulin's golden dragon spear had also become more powerful, with a sufficiently enormous influx of blood essence power to support it. It had evolved to a certain extent. The spear had elongated to close to 5 meters in length. The center of the spear was as thick as a duck egg, and each spearhead on either side was over 1.5 meters in length. Faint golden light was shimmering from the peerlessly sharp spear, and as soon as Jiang Wuyue's giant hammer struck the golden dragon spear, he was struck by an extremely terrifying burst of recoil force, as well as a sense of immense bloodline pressure. His entire body was flung up into the air for several meters, and Tang Wulin immediately brought his golden dragon spear crashing down upon him. A dazzling crescent-shaped golden spear projection instantly hurtled toward him, and he used his pair of hammers to shield himself. A resounding boom erupted, and Jiang Wuyue's body was sent flying for several dozens of meters. After landing on the ground, he only managed to arrest his backward momentum after stumbling back for a few steps. "Your strength." Jiang Wuyue was staring at Tang Wulin in an astonished manner. He had never even met any soul duos who had been able to directly withstand the force of his giant hammers, let alone someone who was below him in terms of soul power rank. He was a pure strength-type soul master. Power and defense were his two fortes. However, the powerful traits that he had always been so proud of had completely failed him here. Not only was he unable to move Tang Wulin even a single inch, he had come off decidedly second best in the aftermath of that clash. There was a noticeable gash on his battle armor, and the protective barrier around his suit of 2-word battle armor had been torn open. Just how sharp was that spear of his? Tang Wulin said. "I improved a little during that last battle." Indeed, after attaining his dragon core, his strength had improved to a whole new level. Jiang Wuyue may have had a chance of being able to match him in strength in the past, but now, the two of them were simply no longer on the same level. Don't celebrate too early. Jiang Wuyue's competitive nature had been completely provoked, and he threw his head back as he let loose a thunderous roar of fury. At the same time, his 6th soul ring lit up, and his entire suit of battle armor, as well as his scales, turned into a dark golden color. A layer of dark golden light appeared around his body, and he swelled further in size to around 10 meters tall. A massive projection that was around 50 meters tall had appeared behind him. The projection was none other than that of a tyrant dragon. The tyrant dragon projection had its mouth open and was letting loose a soundless roar in Tang Wulien's direction. A burst of powerful yet invisible fluctuations immediately surged forth, and all of a sudden, Tang Wulien's bloodline domination seemed to have been completely nullified. Armageddon tyrant rush. A roar of fury rang out, and Jiang Wuyue charged forward like a true giant dragon, reaching Tang Wulien almost instantaneously with unstoppable intent and fearlessly terrifying power radiating from his massive body. In that instant, Jiang Wuyue was unleashing all of his power. Tang Wulien reacted very quickly, and he began by stomping his left foot into the ground while opening his mouth to let loose a loud roar. A golden dragon head appeared to encompass his entire body. It was none other than his golden dragon roar. The terrifying pressure weighing down upon him was completely pulverized by the force of his golden dragon roar, and the formidable shockwaves instantly shattered the tyrant dragon projection behind Jiang Wuyue. Jiang Wuyue's Armageddon tyrant rush was extremely powerful. After unleashing that soul skill, his body had attained abilities similar to Tang Wulien's golden dragon tyrant body, and his defensive prowess had also been elevated to an extremely terrifying level. He was the most powerful six-ring soul emperor that Tang Wulien had ever faced. He was even more powerful than the past Long Yue. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.